Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. I am Cher. So today is a little bit different. We're going to be doing a little makeup lesson. And I know I haven't really done these on my channel as much. I talked about how I would like to start doing a little bit of Makeup 101, some lessons, some classes, some themes, and talk a lot of beauty education and makeup education going forward on my channel, a little bit here and there. We're not going to inundate the channel with that, but I'm eventually probably going to do more of this as a membership. But I thought I'd start offering this kind of like, maybe we'll do it once a month or ever so often and see how it goes and see what the interest is. So I'm a pro makeup artist. It is just my passion to play with makeup, to teach makeup, and I love showing everybody, what to do. I get a lot of questions every day from clients. The number one thing that people are the most intimidated by I have encountered is contouring and highlighting. That is the number one thing. Everybody's like, nope, I don't do it. And even professionals in the beauty industry, like hairdressers, folks who work in beauty, have even told me, like people that I work alongside with when I'm doing weddings and all, they're like, I was fine till they started all that contouring and highlighting, and then I was out. So that is why I chose this subject as our very first makeup lesson topic. So this is going to be pretty basic. However, if you're somebody who is a contour pro, you've been contouring forever, you know how to contour, you may still pick up on a couple of things today that might surprise you that you didn't know, or you may already know this. There's a couple of just overall themes that I picked up from my online certification with Online Makeup Academy, where, I've already been doing professional makeup, but when I took their section on the contour and highlight part, something just clicked for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, it really is that simple. It really comes back down to a couple of these primary laws, so to speak. And so we're going to talk about what those laws are. And I promise you, it is going to be life-changing. It is going to completely transform how you view contour and highlight. As you will see, so many different ways of contouring and highlighting, all over the place. And you'll be like, well, wait a minute. I thought that they taught us it was supposed to be this. There's kind of like a basic principle, but then every different makeup artist, every different influencer, everybody playing with makeup out there has all these different little techniques for how they contour. And you're like, well, which one's right? And what are they doing? And you're just so lost and overwhelmed. It's all going to click and make sense. Why there's so many different variations after you listen to this video. So if that interests you and you think that that will be helpful to you, you want to know how to tweak your contour and highlight, then stick around and we are going to go get started. We have a few different parts and we're going to discuss all those. I'm going to try to break this down very dummy for you at first. Also keep in mind, I do put timestamps in my captions. So if you are somebody who considers yourself not as much of a beginner, you may want to skip ahead to where you might pick up on extra tips. Okay, so just check my timestamps down in the caption below for the parts that interest you most. Okay, because I'm going to be taking it to, I'm going to be doing very beginner and then we're going to build up. All right. Okay, so there's going to be 4 different makeup items you need as part of this lesson. One's going to be concealer. There's 2 different uses of it. One is going to be for like, hiding blemishes, camouflaging, and that kind of thing. But there's a second use for concealer, and that is to use it more as a highlighting effect. So that's the purposes of today. You're going to need concealer. You are also going to need contour, which is, we'll talk about the differences, but you're going to need contour and bronze. You really don't need both, but we're going to be talking more about contour, but I want to discuss in this discussion the differences between contour and bronze, okay? And then last, you're going to need actual highlight. So the powdery highlight or liquid highlight, whichever you want and prefer, that's more for like the cheek area, or in other areas. So 4 different pieces to the puzzle here today. So let's talk overall your basic principles of contouring and highlighting. I want you to write this down if you don't already know, or memorize it. Somehow that you're going to memorize it. We're going to repeat this a few times. Contour, the purpose of your contour, Well, first of all, it's used for sculpting, okay? So many things we can do to shape the face and make it a completely different shape. So sculpting. But the basic principle with contour is anything you basically don't like and you want to hide, you want to minimize, you want to make it less, you're going to use contour. All right. Anything that you want to amplify, you want to call attention to, or you want to make bigger, that's where you're going to highlight. Okay. So that's kind of your basic overall principle. You want to memorize that. Let's repeat that again. To hide and minimize, contour. To amplify and brighten and make larger, basically, highlight. Okay? All right. So that's kind of your number one principle with highlighting and contouring. And so what that means is, like, a lot of times in general, we want to bring more light and more of the brightness into the center of the face. So that's where we're going to be using more of our highlight, and I'm going to be using concealer for the most part to do that. So, you know, around under the eyes, down the nose, around in here in the center, up on the forehead, like these central parts of the face is going to be more highlight. It's bringing like light to the face. And then on the outer edges is where we're going to contour. We're going to do more of a shadowing effect to sculpt and make it look like we have cheekbones or jawbones, nose, a smaller nose, you know, what have you. We can use it to make ourselves look like we have more cleavage. Okay. I do it a lot with boudoir makeup, giving the girls a little boost in the boobies. All right. So wherever you want, you can do a collarbone more, you know, more amplified and sculpted in here. Neckline, you can make your neck look skinnier, bring out, you know, make it look like you have muscles. So contour is great for sculpting and changing the appearance of the face shape, basically. Highlight is better for like brightening and like really, you know, just very bright is my best way to describe it. Okay, so those are your principles. Center of the face is more highlight, outer face is more contour. Okay, shadow is contour, brightness is highlight. All right, so there's your first kind of overall principle. Let's go ahead and talk contour versus bronze. So your contouring is going to be more creating the shadows and shaping the face, whereas your bronze is very similar, okay, to contour. However, it's more the idea of like touching the face where it looks more sun-kissed. So think about where like the sun hits your face. If you've been out at the beach, it's a little more bronzed and sun-kissed. That's kind of the idea there. So it's different placements. Now you can still use bronzer to contour though. And I do that all the time. Honestly, just out of laziness sake. But you know, if you really want to create true like shadows and get your skin tone matched really well, like technically, contour is going to be a better idea for this. Okay. And bronzer's kind of more your like subtle kissed by the sun in certain spots idea. So let's focus on the contour for the most part, and we'll touch on bronze too. So now let's talk about skin tones. I know there's a lot of people who, okay, my sister included, she was always so frustrated trying to contour because she is pale as a ghost. I mean, and I have an actual blog post floating around. It's done really well. One of my best blog posts when I used to do a lot of blogging on my website. I haven't done it in a long time, but I do have a article out there. Feel free to read it. I can try to link it and put it in the caption for you. And it really talks a lot about how to contour if you're really pale. And I think I called it how to contour the most if you're pale as a ghost, something like that. So what is the most important thing? You can still contour, you can still bronze, but what's important is getting the right shade of contour. So when I do pro makeup, I have a bunch of different like contour kits, but these demonstrate the best. They're dirty, sorry. These demonstrate the best, like the two different ones I use the most, and why. This is kind of my go-to for my paler or cool toned girls. So you can get a feel for what the colors look like in here. This is the Tarte Pro Tartist. These bottom two colors are your contour shades down here, and these are all highlight up there. But you'll notice they look a little more taupey, okay? So these are lighter skin tone, more on the taupe side, so they're like a little more cooler leaning taupes than your warmer ones. So if you have a cool undertone or a or a very pale skin, these types of colors, shades are going to be more your friend. That's what's going to keep you from looking orange. Okay. All right. Then this is more for my warm tone girls. So this is the Morphe, what was this one? 8L Lo-Fi. You can tell, can you see how you got a lot more yellow based, browns, darker, and it's not so much darker, it's more on the warmer side is this palette. And you'll see I've almost panned this one because most of my clients are going to be more in this range. So I use this more for my warm tone girls, or ones that want a much more defined, darker contour. And then I have other ones for like my deeper skinned ladies too. And even with deep skin tones, you have a difference between more red based in their skin tones versus a little bit more pinky purple toned, so there is a difference even in deeper skin tone ladies as well. So the key is knowing what your undertone is in your skin. And this goes for like all complexion products. So your undertone, if you don't know what your undertone is, the way to figure out what your undertone is by, there's like 3 different tricks. 1, do you burn easily? If you burn easily, you are probably a cool tone, pink tone person. So you're going to want more taupe type colors. All right. This is your friend. If you don't burn easily, you turn into a luscious, beautiful tan. This is your friend, warm tone. Okay. Your warm tone. If you kind of burn, but not like super easily, or somewhere in between, you might be neutral like me. And I can pull off either of these. You can pull off both cool or warm. Take your pick. You just need to kind of match like how dark you want it based on how tan you are. So you can still be tan and be a cool tone though, by the way. Okay, just let you know. Or darker. Like you could be a medium range and still be a cool tone. You can be a deep skin tone lady that still has a cool tone. Just so you know. All right. So don't judge it by how tan or pale you are. It's more your undertone. If you tend to if silver jewelry looks better on you than gold, you're probably cool toned. If gold looks better on you, then you're probably warm tone. Again, if you're neutral, you can pull off both. If you have green veins, running along your wrist, can you see mine? I have both green and blue. I'm neutral. If you have more blue, you're cool tone. If you have more green, you're warm tone. Okay, so that gives you an idea of what your undertone is. So you want to pick your contour and bronze shades based on your undertone. Unfortunately, they don't usually tell you on the products. You just have to kind of judge it and eyeball it. You kind of start to notice it over time. If it looks more warm and like on the browny orangey side and your cool tone, stay away from it. You want to pick more like a taupe, a true, just something that looks cooler, taupier toned if you are a cool tone person. So that's your key there to not looking orange, okay? If you're cool tone. If you're warm tone, you want to look orange. It's going to blend into your skin better. So, all right. So that's the undertones in picking it out. Let's talk, I think probably most of the when they tell you like beginner 101, how to shape your contour, they usually do the little three, draw a three around your face. So like you start up here, you want it on your forehead. And when you come down here around your cheekbone, like right under along your jawline, there's like this part of the three. And then you come down here along the jawline is the three. That's how they tell most people as your basics for how to contour. And on both sides of the face here, then you also want a nose contour just to complete your look. That is factual. It's usually the case. However, this is where we start getting a little more advanced in our thinking and why you see so many variations of shapes of like some people do a three and some people only do a half of a three and some people have a jawline that big instead of this big. Some people are going all the way down the chin here. Some are bringing it all the way down here. I'm going to explain why. Okay. Why do we see these variations? Here's your advanced part. This is what it all comes back to. Memorize this. We are all, so the basic principle is we want our face to look like an oval. Oval is the model that everybody should be aiming for. Does this mean that if we don't have an oval face shape that we're less than? No. But just in makeup, like in general, we're trying to achieve an oval face shape. I don't really have like an oval. If you take away, see how my jawline here is a little more almost square? Like I almost have like a square face shape. Can you see that? So my principle with contouring is I tend to want to hide this piece of my skin so that I get my face more to that oval ideal face shape. Do you see that? So if I'm like squeezing on that, it turns my face more oval. So I can use contour along here to shadow this area and hide that square piece to turn my face more oval. Does that make sense? So that is what you are doing when you're shaping your face with contour. So it's all about looking at a person's face and saying, okay, what are the pieces of their face that are not in line with the oval? And you can see my forehead is almost a little square too. So I don't necessarily have like a square face. I have probably more of like a almost rectangle, but a really good pronounced chin. So my chin's good, y'all. My chin is ideal. It's almost like part of the heart shape. I almost have like a mix between a square, a heart shape, and a rectangle face. And you can kind of look at different diagrams. I can put a few in here, pictures from like Pinterest to show you different face shapes. We can also look at celebrities to give you an idea of like, okay, she has a heart shape. Like I'm thinking, is it Reese Witherspoon? I get compared to Reese Witherspoon a lot because we have a similar face shape sometimes, but hers is a little more heart shape, I think. So you can kind of think of like, what celebrity do you look like the most to see what is their face shape? And we're going to ideally try to get to pulling from, if it's not an oval, we want to get it to an oval. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I do on my face and we'll go from there. So, okay, so up here, some people don't even need to highlight, to contour up here on their forehead. If you have a really oval shape, you really don't need a lot up here, okay? It's perfect. So those with an oval face don't need to do a lot of contouring. Just gonna let you know. They may want to contour their nose if their nose is really large or something, and we'll talk about the nose in a minute. But so for me, I want to kind of get rid of these edges over here, you see, because those are a little more square. So I'm shadowing in where it's square, okay? I don't necessarily, sometimes I come up here and make a whole, I just make my forehead a little smaller. So even like people with larger foreheads, you may want to contour more. Like you may need a thicker line up here to make the forehead appear smaller. If you have a small forehead, you may not want to do any contouring at the top. So it's all a judgment call on your face shape and what you want to minimize or, appear smaller or larger. Okay, so automatically, you see that? We're starting to make my forehead look a little more oval shaped around the edges here. Okay. All right. So next, we're going to talk about, this is usually your standard. We like to come in here because we want to create like a jawline. So this is your like, if you have a rounder face in here, like really flat, really round, and you want to skinny it up, you would want to sculpt and contour a lot more. If you have a perfect face, then just a little touch of a jawline is all you need. It's all a judgment call, just based on your face shape, okay? So for me, like, it's really more these outer areas that look fatter, so to speak, and squarer. You know, I'm a little round in here and plump, but I usually just kind of take it right along. So here's my cheekbone, okay? Try to take it like right along, like under the edge of the cheekbone. There you go. And you'll notice I'm using an angled brush. This is the Sigma F40. I just love Sigma. It comes down to your preference. This helps you sculpt it a little better when it's angled like this. Some people like more fluffy. The fluffier brush you do, the more dispersed it's going to be. The more narrow brush is going to help you really sculpt. I like to use a brush like this too, because it's just going to create a line to really sculpt it out, and then you can follow behind with a fluffier one to blend it. So the actual brush you use, again, it's kind of up to you on your preference. I tend to like these angled ones when I do my clients. Okay, so here's part of the 3. So we still have a 3 concept, but you notice that I'm doing it just based on my face shape. I don't like to bring mine too far down, unless if I really want to go skinny, I might want to, let me find you a contour stick real quick and show you. Okay. Normally I would do this with like a contour stick, because sticks really help you map out better for you guys to see. But since I've already gone with powder and I want to match my colors, I'm just going to go with like a smaller brush right here just to demonstrate to you. If you bring it down, you could even come all the way like this. This is not a basic 101 sculpting, but do you see how it kind of really, it makes it look like you have muscle lines almost, where you just look skinnier and very sculpted. And so because I do have a little bit larger face, you know, like I do look a little round in here, it does help kind of break that up and make me look skinnier. But this is like, you don't have to do this, you know. Then I'm not gonna leave it like this. I'm gonna follow behind with a pretty fluffy brush of some kind. Right now all I have is this, and just kind of buff it out. So the fluffier, the more dispersed, okay? The skinnier the brush and flatter, then the more sculpted of a line you're gonna make. Okay, so right there, can you see the difference between this side and this side? Now this side I do have the forehead, but I haven't done anything on this side yet. So can you tell it just looks skinnier, more sculpted over here than on this side, right? I'm getting down to more of an oval face, but I've even sculpted out a little muscle here, a little skinniness, a little extra like 3D going on to really make me look skinnier than I am. I look like I lost weight, don't I? I have not lost weight, I've gained weight after the holidays. The jawline. Okay, so, you know, most people, they just kind of say, come along here to give yourself a little bit of a jawline. But like I told you guys, and really, okay, can you see the shadows? Yeah. I have a lot to hide here, okay? Because this is the part really that makes me look square. So I am going to come up thicker than most people would along my jawline. But I'm going to have to try to really blend it well. My hair is in the way. because you don't want like this big old thick line of tan, right? That goes against your neck. You may even want to bring it down on your neck a little bit so that it blends better. Okay, so I do a lot there. Can y'all tell the difference between both sides of my face? This one looks fat. This one looks skinny. I'm gonna need a little more though. Look at that. You can still really see. So then let's talk the nose. Same idea with the nose. If you have a really big, wide nose, you may want to do more contouring, you know, larger lines. If you know, have a nose that you like, you may not even want to contour. It's just up to you and your preference on how you want your nose to look. So mine's a little bigger, and I never feel complete without a little bit of shadow in mine. And the brush to use on there, it can be really easy, honestly. Just get you an eyeshadow fluffy brush. I like this one because it's a little more flat. It might still be a little too big, but it works for me. I like to kind of bring it into the eyes to like blend it up into them around where you'd put your the contour of your eyeshadow. We can also talk contouring with eyeshadow too, by the way. That might be a whole nother like more advanced. I might be getting too detailed, but I kind of bring it into the transition area and just brush it down the nose, okay? Don't freak out because we will blend. And really, it's that easy. Some people like to give an extra little line across here. We'll go ahead and do it. You don't have to, but anytime you add like these extra steps, it's because you're sculpting another, like, you know, you want to give it more of that button look on the end of your nose. You know, you can add things like that. It's really just people creating more to sculpt out more and make it look like there's more little muscles in their face that are creating all these extra bells and whistles, but you don't have to do any of that if you don't want to. And we're just gonna tackle it on both sides here and then blend it out. Now get you like a clean eyeshadow brush after this. I mean, even this one, is this clean? Yeah. And you can kind of blend it with a clean one. And then you could use a beauty blender too if you prefer. It is all up to you. And if you don't want as much up here, you can blend that out. I mean, even use your finger. It's really not that hard. People are very intimidated to contour like the nose. And you can come in even more if you want just a tiny little skinny, you know, pop on the nose and make the Michael Jackson nose. Like, however wide or skinny you want to make it is up to you. I like to make mine enough to see the shadow because I just feel more complete that way, but not like so much that it's crazy. Okay, so now for highlight. And I don't mean the highlight, sparkly highlight on the cheeks. I'm talking using concealer to highlight. We talked about how highlight is where we amplify the things we do want to see. So you don't want to be putting highlight on things you want to bring attention to. You don't want attention to. If you got a big old zit, you don't want to put it there. We tend to want to go a shade or two lighter than our skin tone, so it's a lot more brightening to give it this effect. But if you're using concealer more for concealing, like a zit, you want to just stick with your skin tone, okay? So we're going to be using the concealer more for the highlighting effect. And so that's kind of like this under eye area. If you are, you know, it used to be that you'd see the inverted triangle was all the rage. Not really as much anymore. Really, you got to think about as we age, we get very like crusty under the eyes, everything crinkles. And if you put too much concealer under there, it's going to look very cakey. So I just put a little bit in the spots that are the most dark and like on the outer corners. You can also apply a skin tone close, a concealer closer to your skin tone on the outside corners if you want, but that gets a little more complicated. We can talk about some of these advanced things in other lessons, but then I'm going to come down, put one on the nose right there. a little touch right here. I don't do much up here because see how I have wrinkles? I don't want to highlight my wrinkles. Okay, so I don't bring it up too much. A little dab right there, a little dab right there. So we're keeping everything very central. You could mark out another one along here to like really show the difference between your contour line or not. It just gives it a little more, you know, amplifying that sculpted effect, but I'm going to keep it simple right now. You can come in and blend it out either with a beauty blender or a brush, you know, your preference. This makes the perfect little spot under the eyes, one of these little brushes to blend it out. So I like to use this one on my clients. I use both a brush and a beauty blender. You can also use why do I always forget the name of these? Powder puff, a powder puff. This is going to give you more matte blend and more precise. So it's just up to you, like what your preference is. I use a combo of all three sometimes, or just whatever I'm in the mood for personally. And if I can't blend this all the way out with the brush, I'll come back in and follow up with the beauty blender. And I like to take it like along the nose. So remember how we contoured our nose? I kind of take it down along the nose here so that it helps outline that contour and really show a contrast there too. And I just really blend it out. And I always lift up around the eyes. This also helps sculpt and clean up your eye makeup as well. And there's a lot of tricks you can do there too, but that's other lessons. And blend that baby out. Okay, so now we've brought some brightening to the interface. And same thing over here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this highlighting part because there's a lot of lessons in concealer, setting powders, all of that. And I could just go down a whole rabbit hole there. I wanted to give more the basic concepts of contour and highlight. So I'm not going to touch on this concealer too much. I just wanted to kind of show you. Now we're using it for highlighting. Okay, so as you see now, it's brighter on the inside, more shadowy on the outside. I went ahead and set everything. Let's talk about bronzer now and the difference between bronzer and contour. So, I mean, it is a preference to you. You could use bronzer to contour if you want. You just need to make sure, though, that you don't have a super orangey, you know, that your color's still like reasonable enough to create a shadow effect rather than just an orange streak. The purpose of bronzer is more to give a sun-kissed look, though. So there's different placements. You know, instead of like this 3, you kind of think about where does the sun hit your face. If you're out at the beach all day, where are you going to get sun-kissed the most and bronzed the most? It's probably going to be like in the central part of your forehead rather than an arch around your head, right? Or it might even be a little bit on your temples. So, and I also like to come in with a very, a little bit more like, what's a good brush? This is not the best brush, but a little more like, I don't know, a little fluffier brush rather than sculpted. I go more diffused when it comes to bronze. And you'll see, like, I'm using an ABH, my ABH palette, because I think this has more of a bronze color in it. This is Italian Summer, by the way. And I'm just going to kind of dab. I don't really like to bronze much because I want my forehead to stay fairly, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Highlighted up there. But you can give it more of this bronzed look if you want. It's more of a preference if you want to put it up here. But that would be the idea. And that was not a great brush before. And then also think about, like, I like to keep my chin really light and bright here because it does really shape it. But you do tend to get sun-kissed, like right there on the chin. So you could pop a little bit, like right down here. You know, so really it's just thinking about where the sun hits. The biggest difference between where you put it on the cheeks though. The contour tends to be like along under this cheekbone to really sculpt like right along here. With your bronze though, you bring it up a little higher because you think about where the sun hits you. It's going to hit you more along here, okay? But again, I go more subtle with bronze because I don't want this big streak or line drawn of contour there. So I'm just going to kind of dust it with bronze. Almost like you think about your blush. And you could do the bronze instead of blush, or you could do bronze and blush. It is up to you. This is kind of more where you get into preference of what kind of like look you're going for. So bronze just goes like a little higher. And I don't really like the look of, I don't do a lot of, I usually either bronze as contour or just leave it alone. But that's kind of the idea with it. So we could also add in our blush now too, if we want to. And the blush would kind of go somewhere between, you know, your bronze and contour, like kind of in the same area, just kind of blend it all into each other. So if you wanted more color, I like to bring mine up. You can even put it on the nose if you want. You can put the bronze on the nose if you want. If you want to make it look like you got a little sun right there on the tip of your nose, make that kind of like, oh, I got sun-kissed at the beach. I don't really care for it because I like more of the highlight there. But that's the idea with bronze, is that's what's different between bronze versus contour. Last would be our actual highlight, like the powder sparkly highlight. The brush, I tend to use like either like a little smaller angled brush, or even you could just do another fluffy eyeshadow brush, or like a smaller, it's not really a blush, but like a concealer brush, you know. It just depends on what's easier for you to go on. Some people like to use fan brushes, not this kind, that's too big, but like same concept with a fan brush. However you want to apply yours. And then this just kind of finishes it off. We usually do that along the top. I do it along the top of my cheekbone right here. A little dab on the chin. And then I like to get a very small, precise, like inner corner brush. And you can go very small on mapping out a line of highlight here. Yeah, it kind of depends. If you have a really light highlight, it works better for that corner. And then I like to pop it in the inner corners of my eyes too. I have never seen it presented this way before. And that's about it. So guys, that's really what it comes down to. I think we're about done with our 101 lesson today. I really just wanted to kind of hammer home the two principles. I think if you can just remember these two principles, you can conquer it. So let's rehash what they are. The first one is contour shrinks, hides shadows, whereas highlight amplifies and brightens and widens. And then the second principle is get to the oval face, creating different shapes based on your face type. So it really comes down to studying your face type and other people's face types and determining like, okay, what are the things I want to hide? What are the things I want to amplify in order to create the oval face? If you can get to that and you can study it and think about it, you got it. So that should be it. Let me know if this was helpful, and let me know if you want to see more of this Makeup 101 and lessons like this in the future. I will be happy to do them maybe on a monthly basis and maybe eventually through classes and stuff too. So that's it for today, guys. Happy contouring and highlighting, and feel free to ask me any questions down below. I'll try to answer them, or it may lead to more videos to answer those questions in the future. And also let me know any other topics you'd like help with as well. I will be happy to bring those videos to you too. So happy makeuping, happy 2024, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye.